right. Well, hey, everyone, thank you for joining us. And I am super excited to finally announce my good friend, Evan Ransom, to the Georgia Legacy Group. Evan is, oh gosh, where do we begin? An MCTT now officially in Tennessee, and really, really, really brilliant person. You can see his branding behind him. He also runs a company called Real Estate Tech Ninja. So he's one of your go-to people for like all things command and real estate online. Just a tremendous resource, good friend of mine, and our guest speaker. And I'm going to call him an expert on the matter of cybersecurity today. And thanks for having us.
Hey, thanks for having me, man. I really appreciate it. That you nailed that intro. That's pretty much everything there is to know about me. I'm very boring otherwise. Outside of those facts, it's pretty much.
Actually, you have a lot of interests. We don't want to hear them because we'll go down tangents for the next 90 minutes.
Absolutely. I'm known to do that. So awesome. Thank you guys so much for having me here today to talk about one of the most important topics to discuss in this day and age, especially, which is just kind of online security. I know we like to use the word cybersecurity a lot on this. I'm going to reframe that term to just talking about personal online security when it comes to business, right? Because a lot of us these days are operating our accounts online with cloud environments. So we're just going to talk about some best practices today about how to keep yourself safe online. We're going to talk about three primary topics today. The first one is going to be about passwords and password management. The second one is going to be talking about software. And the last one is going to be like just common things to look out for. So we're not going to have a super technical conversation today. So for anybody who wants to nerd out with me and talk until our eyes glaze over about all kinds of crazy tech stuff, we won't be doing that today. We will be doing some very accessible things that we could all do that are very easy to help keep ourselves safe. Once we get through those three topics, depending on how much time we have, we'll do an open Q&A about just any general security or safety related questions. And then we will wrap it up from there. But to get us started, I want to talk really quickly about passwords. And of course, the dogs are going to go crazy right now, naturally. Let's talk about passwords. And first thing I want to talk about is password strength. The password, as computers get more and more powerful, the ability to guess a password or brute force a password is becoming more accessible to more people online. So I want to talk real quick about password strength. A lot of us use very simple, short passwords that are really, really easy to remember. Or easy to type in. When they're really short like that, they're also very easy to guess. So a password, someone who's going to brute force a password and guess it, what they're going to do is they're going to run a program that's just going to try literally every possible combination of characters until they get it right. Now, for short passwords, that's really, really easy. For longer passwords, it gets exponentially harder to go along. So I'm going to share my screen real quick just to kind of give you an idea of what that is going to look like. There's a website I like to use called How Secure Is My Password. I'm going to put the link in the chat for anybody who wants to keep. We're going to put a lot of links in the chat today. We are going to talk a little bit about social engineering as well, Derek. Good point. That's going to be in the things to look out for section. So this website here is called howsecureismypassword.net. And the reason why I like it is because you can type in something just to get an idea of how fast a computer can break it. So let's say our password is, I'm gonna pick on Jill Maxon right now just because she happens to be in frame. But let's just say her address is 123 Main. 123 Main, it would take a computer about 1 second to crack that password, guessing every possible combination of characters. So typically, and it's also going to give you some ideas of why this password's so bad. So this has got possibly a word and a number in it. So it looks like it knows, okay, you just used a word. It's also very short. There's no symbols. For a good password, we want to have at least, we want to have uppercase characters, lowercase characters, and special characters, depending on what all the account may require. For example, I like to use really long passwords. And the reason I do, and I like to use passphrases because they're easier to remember, but really hard for a computer to guess. I'm going to pick on Jill again, and let's just say the wall behind Jill is gray, 1, 2, 3, exclamation mark. It's going to take a computer about 600 non-new, I don't even know how many years that is. I will definitely be long dead before that computer ever cracks that password, right? It's very, very long, very easy to remember because the wall behind Jill is gray, 1, 2, 3, exclamation mark, easy peasy to remember. So that is basics on when it comes to just what is a good password and what's a bad password. We're going to talk a little bit about personal identifying information as well here momentarily, but I just wanted to get across some basic ideas of, hey, use a really long password, use a variety of characters for any of your important accounts. The biggest way that most of your accounts will be accessed without your consent is going to be through the reuse of passwords. Because a lot of us, when we have really long passwords and really, really good passwords, they become really hard to remember. So a lot of people have one quick and easy shortcut, which is, hey, I'll just use the same password for everything. Go ahead and raise your hand real quick if you use the same password for everything. That's a lot of hands in the room. That is a lot of hands in the room. And some of you that didn't raise your hand, tell me this, just raise your hand. Do you use different passwords by occasionally adding an exclamation mark at the end? That's not good enough. That is not good enough. And here is why. More than likely, any of the accounts over the course of all the accounts that you've made in your life, one of them is probably leaked. Companies get hacked every single day, and you have no control over that, right? LinkedIn had a data leak. Canva has had a data leak. This happens all the time. What I like to do is another website that I'm going to put into here, which is haveibeenpwned.com. Some cringy hacker language here. This tool right here is one that I absolutely recommend that you bookmark. And the reason I do is what this website does is it checks your email or phone number across a ton of different databases to let you know if any of your accounts have leaked in that information. I'm going to get a quick volunteer from the audience just to kind of prove this point. This will put the fear of God in you for sure. Anybody here want to share an email address that they've had for a long time, and we'll just test it out real quick? Mahogany?
Yeah, I got you.
What's a good email for you?
TRI dot my first name Mahogany MAHOGANI dot
Got it.
TRI@gmail.
So tri.mahogany.tri?
Yep.
Okay. So we're going to search that up real quick. And this one's actually pretty tame. So here we see that one of the breaches that your information is in a web service called Park Mobile. It looks like here, email addresses, license plates, name, and here's the kicker right here, passwords and phone numbers, right? So whatever password that you used for that account, however long ago you made it or whenever you made it, that is now freely available for folks to go get. There's lots of different services on the dark web that sell these data breaches. But this tells me that I could go on and probably get that password very, very easily. I want to try someone else too real quick, just to kind of see how expansive this can be.
I'll volunteer.
All right. All right.
Pine Spring.
Okay, it's Jill Maxon, so maxon36@gmail.com.
Okay. All right, so your Canva account had its password leaked, as well as where you're from. The username and email address associated with it are also leaked. We got code. This right here is a trove of personal information. So this is a breach that essentially combines a lot of different lists. So sometimes what will happen is the hacker will work for a while and can get a lot of different leaks and then drop them all at once, right? So another thing I should tell you is that if you do put your information in here and it comes up clean, that doesn't mean your password has not been exposed at some point. What it means is that it hasn't been made available yet. MySpace had a hack that happened in 2006, and that didn't drop until, I want to say, 2 years ago. I can't remember exactly how long ago that was.
So, Evan, are you saying we should change this password now? For
Whatever.
Canada and all these different sites, house and everything?
Absolutely. So if your password's been exposed, what that means is you should never use that password for anything ever again.
But I don't even know what that is at this point. I have so many passwords. I have to look at my list.
That's fine. I'm going to talk about how we can do password management here in just a moment to make that quite a bit easier for you. But yes, what this means is that password has been leaked. Now, let's think about how easy it is to get into things once I have this, right? So let's just say I'm going to target real estate professionals because I know that you guys handle very large financial transactions. And I know there's a lot of flow in there. So you guys also like to have your emails, very publicly available because there's no such thing as a secret agent, right? So I'm going to target, let's say I target Jill. So I know Jill's email is jillmaxon36@gmail.com because that came with this leak. Now, what do most people, for most accounts all across the internet, what do we use as the username?
Our email addresses.
Our email addresses, right. So I'm going to take that email and that password. There's a little program I'm going to run that's basically going to say, hey, go try out this combination everywhere. Many different places I can possibly get into. You think I'm going to get some hits?
Yeah.
Absolutely I am. Absolutely I am. Because people like to use the same password for everything, and emails, some folks do change their email. You'd be surprised. A lot of folks keep the same email for a long time. Or if I know what your other emails are, like let's say your KW email or something like that, or your business email, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm just going to swap out the email address and try that same password everywhere else too. I'm going to give all those things a shot, right? And I'm probably going to get into a lot of things. What you really don't want me getting into is the actual email address itself, right? Because if I can get into your email account, that's real bad news, right? Because if I get into your email account, I can just go and into the search bar, type in the word bank, and when 15 region emails come back, you want to take a guess as to where you might bank at? Probably regions. So I'm going to go over to regions.com and I'm going to say, hey, here's my email address. Hey, but you know what? I couldn't get into the bank account because you were smart. You used a real special password for that one, right? But I get on there and I say, I forgot my password. What's it going to do?
Give you some questions.
Yeah, your bank is probably, depending on your bank, probably going to be a lot more discriminatory with letting you reset your password. I'm just using bank as an example, but for any account that I didn't get into with that quick, program that ran passwords everywhere, I could just go to that website and say, hey, you know what? I have forgotten my password. And typically what it's going to do, about 99 times out of 100, it's going to email you a password reset link. Well, I'm already in your email. And so I've gone in and gotten ahead and gotten access to those things. Now, like I said, banks typically are going to be a little more secure than that, but I like to use bank as an example because it's a little more scary. This should be scary enough as it is. So how do we keep this from happening to us, right? Because this is happening all the time. We cannot control the fact that our passwords are going to leak. It is going to happen. How do we keep that from being a small problem into being a really big problem potentially, especially if I'm targeting you for real estate? What I'm likely to do is get into your email and not necessarily make a big mess of things, but instead I'm just going to sit and watch, right? Wait for you to get something under contract, get all the information. I know we've seen this before in the real estate industry. Your buyer gets an email from you or somebody posing to be you saying, hey, thanks so much. It's been great working with you. Before you come to the closing table today, send over the down payment, the wiring instructions. Here are those wiring instructions, right? Those kind of things can happen. So how do we protect ourselves against this problem? Well, the only thing you can really do here is use a different password for every single thing. And everybody in the room just went, no, oh my God, how am I possibly going to do that? You probably can't. That's the human brain can only store so much information, right? That is when we need to turn to a software solution to help us with this. And many of you have probably seen this before. They're called password management apps. There's a ton of them out there. The big ones are going to be LastPass.
Yay!
So yeah, there we go. We got a LastPass user in the house. I personally use Dashlane. It's the one that I use. There's also one called KeepPass. There's a million and one of these. Try to stick with the big players, just in case, because there are probably some malicious ones in that bunch. But KeepPass, LastPass, Dashlane. I almost said DashPass. Or DoorDash.
That's my
for your
legal
password.
Evan. I know that one.
Yeah. Let me go ahead. I don't know if I put this website linked in here. Oh, someone else is doing. Thank you, Alex. I appreciate that. We use LastPass. Good deal. Awesome. So I'm going to talk about Dashlane. This is the one. Pretty much everything I say about Dashlane, you could probably say the exact same thing about LastPass. They are fundamentally the same experience, but they are called password managers. And what they do is they store all of your password information into an encrypted cloud environment so that you no longer have to remember all of your passwords, right? Because I use a little browser extension in it. But when I go to, let's just say, Amazon.com, and let's say, for example, I am currently signed out. If you'll let me do that, Amazon. Okay. So when I get to a login screen of a website that I have stored, I just click here and it's actually going to let me pick which account I want to log into. And it's usually, for the most part, it'll automatically sign you in as well, which can be very convenient. Oftentimes when I've cleared my cache and cookies in my browser and I'm not signed into anything, I'll go to the website and it'll just load itself and log itself in. I never have to remember a single password. They also have a password generator, which essentially you can set the rules of, and it's just going to generate a very long password that, again, you don't have to remember because it automatically logs you in. And it's also incredibly secure. So if I take this password, for example, and just throw this in here, if someone was going to crack that password, it would take them 2 duodecillion years. Okay, that's not happening, not going to be a problem. Right? When I'm creating accounts as well, it'll oftentimes pop up. And you've seen iCloud and Google do this sometimes where they say, use our suggested password, right? Dashlane will do the same thing. And speaking of remembering passwords, do not have your browser save all of your passwords. Use a password manager app instead. And the reason I say don't use your browsers for this is because all of that information is going to be stored right in the browser itself. All you need in order to get into it is the password for the computer, which is very simple to get into. Also, one of the things you'll notice when you open up one of these password managers for the first time, it allows you to import all those stored passwords from your browser into this new cloud encrypted environment. If it can do that, that means malicious software can do the same thing. And your question may be, well, Evan, what happens when my password manager account gets hacked? Well, you're screwed. No short way to put it, right? You're probably going to be in a really bad situation. But here's the thing about those. Companies whose entire value proposition is password safety and password management and security, I'm going to assume are a bit better at it than, say, that random Facebook quiz app that you opened up and made an account with however long ago, right? The chances of them going under, not impossible, but much, much lower, right? The one thing I didn't mention is that you do have to remember one password to get into your password management account. This is going to be true for all of them, whether it's Dashlane, KeepPass, or LastPass, whichever, your master password for the account. When you're setting that account up, do not use one of the passwords that you've ever used before. If you do that, you have sorely missed the point of this conversation because that gets them right into it, right? Make up a new password. And that's why I bring this house with my password side up, because make it a strong, hard to guess password with no personally identifying information. So things like birthday or your dog's name or what street you grew up on, all that good stuff, leave it out of this new password, right? Make it easy to remember. For mine, it's actually, my password for mine is quite long, but it's a bunch of random words and a couple of numbers mixed in. I've got it memorized, and it's the only password I have to remember. It's important to be able to remember it, because if you do forget it, you'll find with password management software, there is no reset password option if you can't get into it. Another reason why it helps, one of the reasons why it's a little more secure is that if you do happen to forget it and don't remember what it is, you are not getting back into it. And that's painful. That's super painful. Now, with DashPass, or I keep saying DashPass, with Dashlane, that'd be really cool if the food ordering service also included password management. That's awesome.
Yeah, what are you for lunch, Evan? We got a DashPass you some lunch. I think that's the problem.
I do it all the time when I go to my phone to pull up Dashlane or DoorDash. Is I always pull up the other one. I'll be like, I'm hungry. Let me go pull up my passwords, or I need to get into this thing. What's for lunch? Happens to me every day. Totally lost my train of thought on that. Oh, so when you get the account started, import your passwords from your browser. It is going to, for free, only store up to about 50. All of them have a little bit of different limitation on what they do for free. The basic paid service is phenomenally affordable, right? So we got $3.99 a month for being able to manage passwords on 2 different devices, plus securely share and not change passwords. I do the premium as well, because it includes the dark web monitoring, and that's just a fancy term for what that Have I Been Pwned site was doing. Right, so it's basically checking all the time and scanning the email addresses I have in there for possible data leaks. Basically, any account that I have stored in that system, it's just checking to see if that's been made available. It happens to me all the time, and that's why I say you would be surprised at how often data is leaked, because I will probably get an alert from Dashlane probably like once a quarter or so. I think the most recent one was Spotify. My Spotify account information had leaked. But it happens quite often. So I like that because I don't have to remember to go check all the time. It's just reminding me every now and again when it does that. It'll have a security center showing you all of your accounts and which ones have been exposed, which ones are reusing passwords. I would take us into Dashlane itself and show you those things, but unfortunately, being a security guy, I don't like anybody to see my Dashlane account, so forgive me. I won't be pulling it up today. But it does all of those things and makes it really simple. It also has an app on the phone, right? So whenever I need to get in something on my phone, actually, I think I can show that. Let me see if there's a convenient way to do so. Let's go to Amazon.com and try to log in real quick. And if I can get that to pull up, I'll show you what that looks like. Yeah, absolutely. Sign in. Okay, so I'm going to share my phone real quick. And of course, Zoom needs me to install another new plugin. All right.
So you're using Dashlane and Sam is using LastPass?
Yeah, you can't go wrong with either of those. At this point, Dashlane owes me a referral fee for the amount of people I've gotten signed up with them.
And just by chance, Sam, is Robin using one of these two? Robin Lemon?
I don't know. I actually haven't had that conversation with her.
We've used
Robin actually is using one. She did it in a meeting a while ago. So
Okay.
Yeah, I just didn't know which one, Jill.
yeah, I don't know which one either, Nicole.
Yeah.
I know she does use one. Sam,
think
could you repeat the name of what it is the software you are using?
so. There's oh gosh, Evan, where are the two? Help me here. I'm blanking. I'm in Dash Pass now, so I'm thinking in my head.
Yeah,
Dashlane
Dashlane.
and
LastPass?
LastPass. Thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time hearing through Zoom. Could you spell the name or type it out so I could see it?
Yep, they're actually in the. Are they in the chat?
I just put it in the chat.
Yeah, they are in the chat.
I got Dashlane, but what was the other one?
LastPass.
It's also in the chat. LastPass.
Okay, thank you.
Perfect. So this is what it looks like on the phone. So essentially, if we notice on here, you'll notice on your keyboard when I've gone to type in or log into something, this works the same when you're in apps, is there's a little password icon that if you, oh, are you not going to let me do it now? Oh. Of course, Amazon doesn't, but typically, of course, just in time for class. Come back. I've lost the phone. There we go. You would see right here that it would say, hey, use Dashlane for this. This is where it normally pops up. I may not have my app updated, which is why. When I click that, it pulls me into a login screen. And as soon as I put in my master password, it will say, hey, which account do you want to use? And I'll pick one, and it just logs you right in, making things really, really convenient. Typically, when it comes to security, what is convenient is never secure, and what is secure is usually never convenient. Password managers kind of help bridge that gap a little bit when it comes to just remembering your accounts. Now, setting yourself up with that software is just the first step. You're going to have to put in a couple of hours with going in and changing passwords. A lot of those software have features where they can automatically update those passwords for you with new ones. You'll find that most services don't allow that, so you'll have to go and log in and change the password or reset the password for any given account. Now, that being said, I would not get overwhelmed and try to update every single password for every single account that you've ever made. On average, the standard American has around 400 to 500 different internet accounts all over the place. I would prioritize. Think about what's most important for you and your business, right? Your email being first and foremost, primary social medias, anywhere your credit card is stored, right? So any kind of retailers, those kinds of things that handle money. Those are the ones that I would mainly focus on. So that way, if that Disney quiz I took on Facebook that told me which Disney princess I was, Ariel, by the way, leaks the password I made there at some point. Have at it, man. That's good. That's fine. You can have that account. You can have any account that uses that password. I'm not too concerned with it, right? But those are going to be the main ones. Okay, so as far as that's password management, let's also talk about two-factor authentication. Oh gosh, everybody's favorite topic. There is nothing more attractive than two-factor authentication. It's important to do. I'm just going to put it plain and right out there. If it's available to be used, absolutely use it for any account. For those that don't know, that's when you successfully log into an account and then it says, hey, we need to text you a little code first or email you a little code, and you got to give us that code in order to continue on. That's essentially adding another layer of security. I find that text two-factor authentication is usually the most widely available one. There are services that will let you use things like Authenticator apps. The one I'm going to recommend is called Google Authenticator. If you've never heard of it before, I'll pull it up here. The reason why I like Google Authenticator over using like a cell phone number to text me is that at the end of the day, oh yeah, Derek said it, yeah, SIM swapping can happen. So people can spoof your phone number and receive messages from you, right? If it does happen to you, you'll know something is very wrong because your phone will suddenly stop working. It is not incredibly common, but it does happen. I like to use Google Authenticator as just another way to be able to, let's type that in, Google Authenticator. Authenticar, there we go. Let's do one that's not an ad, get all the Zoom stuff. Awesome. So here's an article here I'm going to put into the chat. So it's available on iPhone. It's available on Android. And if you use it, only certain companies will support using the Authenticator app like this. But if they do, the Authenticator app in itself will have instructions to set that up. And essentially what that'll do is it's constantly generating a new code inside of the app. And whenever you're wanting to log into something, you have to open that app up and give that code from there. That keeps you a little bit safer from SIM swapping. It does not keep you safer from a stolen phone with no password on it. If that's the case, then you're, I don't know what to tell you there. Have a password on your phone. Okay, so PII, personal identifying information. I'm actually going to move this down to things to look out for when it comes to social engineering, but I'm going to quickly touch on it real quick. Has anybody seen those incredibly viral Facebook posts that'll be like, hey, what street did you grow up on? Or how far away did you live from your hometown, right? Or, this is my favorite, and I'm going to owe Mo Anderson a little bit of money on this when we see this one. What's your porn star name, right? Have you seen those where it's like, oh, the first name is the first letter of your mother's maiden name, and the middle name is your pet's name, and all that stuff, and people type in funny responses at the bottom. Stop posting and commenting on those. I know they get viral, but you are quite literally putting in all of the information that you're likely to use in a password or for password recovery questions, right? One of the jokes I like to tell all the time is I'll ask people what their mother's maiden name is. Oh, what's their name? Credit card number, social security, street you grew up on, all those things. Because if I could answer those questions, I could probably pass a check to get your password reset sent to me. Because if one of the big ways that companies will help you get back into your account, say you don't have access to an email anymore or something like that, is they'll make you answer a couple of questions. You've seen them, the security questions that come up. That's one of the parts of social engineering. Let's talk about software real quick. This is one that I see big time. I'm going to have to pull up Chrome for this, so give me one moment. So for Chrome, I want you to open up your Chrome browser real quick, and we're going to talk about extensions. There's tons of these. I see it all the time. So in the URL bar, you can type in Chrome, :// and you're going to type in extensions. I'm going to copy and paste that into the chat for anybody who just wants to copy paste. Chrome, :/ extensions. What you're going to see is a list of different extensions for your browser. I would say it is important every so often to review this list. I see all the time people will accidentally click on something that installs an extension. Mainly the ones that I see are troublesome are things like calendar extensions, weather extensions, things of that nature, safe browsing extensions. A lot of them are completely bogus, right? I like to remove a lot of the ones I see. The only ones I have are going to be my ad block, my password manager. In fact, this Google Sheets offline. I don't even know what that is. We're going to get rid of that. Birthday calendar exporter. If you're not actively using that extension, remove it. Remove it. If it's a weather extension, what are you doing? There's weather websites. It's not doing anything. What it's getting access to are all the things that you do inside of your browser. And I can bet that you guys can probably use your imagination and guess what all someone could do with that information. Anything that has like safe search extension, get rid of those immediately. They are not keeping you safe. They are redirecting you to somewhere that's not Google, that is monitoring everything that you are doing. I have yet to see one that was legitimate. Nicole, if you look just above your message, I put that in the chat there. There's not a whole lot to talk about here other than just keep your browser clean. right? Keep your browser clean. Stop putting those things on there. If you ever type into Google, if you're on Chrome and you type in the search bar and a site that's not Google shows up, that probably should be a sign, right? If I go to search Google in the Chrome search bar and I get some Yahoo or some weird Yahoo secure search or some weird thing like that, it's not Yahoo. And I think it would be a little bit strange to type into a Google product and get Yahoo results, right? It's a little odd, but I see it all the time. Active logins and security activity. This is something I recommend everybody do for their Google accounts. Everything you should do for your Google account real quick. So if you're in anywhere inside of Google, I'm just going to go to Gmail or calendar. At the top where you see where your account info is, you click on that. There's a button called Manage Your Google Account. This is something that you should periodically check. I would say put a calendar time block in once a month or once a quarter. Honestly, the more frequently you do it, the better, which is just to come in here and go to the security section. I would also do this with your Facebook account as well. We'll show you how to do that here in just a moment. But in Google, we come to security and review the information that you see here. Because like I said before, if I'm targeting you because you're a real estate professional and I'm doing it because I want to wire fraud your clients, I don't know if wire fraud's a verb, but it is now. If I wanted to wire fraud to, or I don't know, want to make your, you know, get what I'm saying. If I want to do something like that, I'm probably not going to do a lot to make myself known in your account. I'm probably just going to be really quiet and just watch what you send and receive in your email. How many contract cover sheets with all the lovely information for everyone's convenience that go through that account, right? I'm just going to sit back and watch. I can always sort of come in here and check and see, all right, recent security activity, which is more or less just recent things that have happened where I've given third-party apps access into my account. My devices, this is the main one. So my devices, I come in here and periodically check this. If I see a device on here that I do not recognize, remove it. And that could be the work computer that you signed into and forgot to log out of, right? And if it is one of your devices, you're not going to hurt yourself because all it's doing is just signing you out of Google on that device. Right? It's just making it where they have to log in again. So worst case scenario, you got 5 seconds of inconvenience. Best case scenario, you've interrupted someone who is trying to maintain access. If you do see things in here that you don't recognize, especially if they're from outside of the country, I would absolutely change my password at that point, because that means someone got access to it and got past any security check. And if I take them out of here, all they have to do is sign back in again, right? Always, always change your password. If you suspect anything has happened, change your password. Also, third-party apps. There's a lot of malicious apps that are out here. I can always review which apps I've given some kind of access into my Google account, like things like Calendly, DocuSign here, My CRM, a couple other random CRMs that I've all tried out that I probably need to actually remove. Things that I can sign into with Google is probably not as important to review, but you know, you can check it out. But if I see an account in here or some kind of third-party service that I don't recognize, you need to immediately remove it, because they could be getting, depending on what they have access to things that you don't want, especially things like this right here. Has access to Gmail. If you see a service on there that has access to that you don't recognize, absolutely remove it, because that means they can send and receive mail on your behalf. Which, if I was doing that and I had your account information and I was using a third-party tool like this to do that, you would not notice me in your recent, in your logged in devices, because I'm not logging into Google to do it. I'm logging into something else that has access to your account to do it. Basic things. Now, you may be like me because, hey, I say you do it monthly, do it quarterly, or you might be more like me. I only come here when I think something's happened, which is typically how I end up doing it, but it is important to review that from time to time. We are burning through this content a little faster than I expected. Does anybody have any questions about what they are seeing here and what these things mean?
I have a question for you.
Yes,
So,
ma'am.
yeah, Evan, so I have Norton LifeLock on my computer. I mean, do
Uh-huh.
I need that as well as, I mean, I'm not sure, I pay a lot of money for it. I'm not sure what it does exactly.
I think the LifeLock is their identity protection, isn't it?
I think, yeah, I think so. I mean, I've gotten, yeah, I had a few $1,000s stolen out of my bank account one time. So it's something I put on there. Yeah.
Yeah. I can't speak to the veracity of different life protection, identity protection services. Kind of like I'm not a tax professional, so don't trade securities on the advice that you hear from me today. But depending on, there's a lot of them out there. I personally don't use any of them myself, but I find that they don't really they don't really do much. They're supposed to alert you when things have happened. By that point, it's usually a little too late. My favorite is the guy, I can't remember, I think it was the LifeLock guy, one of those companies that he actually put his social security number like on an advertisement as a van saying like, our service is so good, I'm trusting it with my social, here's my social. That guy had his identity stolen around 450 times after that ad. He had a lot of mortgages.
Oh my God.
At the end of the day, if somebody really wants to, they're going to get it, right? They're going to be able to open up a loan. They'll find some sketchy lender to open one up there.
I can comment on all of that.
Yeah, Derek, help us out here.
So I've had my identity stolen three times. Once, the earliest was in 1995, I think it was, and that was actually somebody hacking and getting my information for a Best Buy card and then trying to use it up in Lincoln, Nebraska. That was a nightmare. The file for that was about 3 inches thick. The other two times I had everything in place in 2009 and 2012 where people attempted it and had no success. And all of these different sites alerted me, my credit card companies, things like that, that there was unusual activity, and I was able to follow up and catch it. I do have LifeLock too, as well as LastPass. LastPass does a great job of alerting me when I've got duplicate passwords or easy to guess ones and helps me change them. LifeLock, I agree with you a little bit that it, by the time it notifies you, it's a little too late, but it has notified me several times of, dark web stuff. And I've gone and found things that, hey, they're not necessarily critical things, but yeah, go ahead and change them type stuff. So having that in complement with the LastPass or Dashlane or any of those other ones, I don't think is harmful or a problem to have. It's just an extra layer of protection. But I agree with you too that it doesn't do a whole lot if you've got all these other protections already in place.
At the end of the day, if you're willing to pay for it and you're getting value out of it, it's basically an insurance policy to a certain extent.
Just like everything else. And I tend to overinsure my life.
I was just going to ask that, Evan. So basically, if we're paying this premium monthly, are they, if something happens, we were to get hacked, are they insuring a certain amount? Are they insuring something?
Oh, no. It's not literally an insurance policy. Yeah, there's no premium and no deductible payout or anything like that. What you're getting is the value of password protection, right? So you're basically able to manage and practice effectively safe password management. It does not do the job for you 100%. It offers a lot of different tools to help you make that easier, like remembering your passwords for you.
But there's no guarantee that no one will hack you with it. They're not guaranteed.
There's no guarantee. There's no way anyone could ever guarantee that you'll never get hacked ever. It's simply not possible to guarantee that. If someone is smart enough and dedicated enough, they will find a way to get into your accounts. Now, what we're protecting ourselves against are the vast majority of people that are going to hack you or get into your accounts. They're typically playing a big, large numbers volume game, right? They're not hyper fixating on you. But if you had, like, let's say, a technical smart X that was heck bent on destroying your life, get the police involved, right? There's not much more you can, do outside of that, because if they're smart enough, they will figure out a way to get in. There's 1,000,001 different ways to get into your accounts. What we're talking about today primarily is going to be one of the most common ones we see at large.
It's
Did
similar
wanna make
to
that
home
clear.
protection, to an alarm system at your house.
Yeah.
It doesn't guarantee no one gets in there, but it lets you know as soon as somebody does.
Yeah. And it gives you tools to help you with that endeavor. Yeah. I pay the $6 a month package because I really appreciate being told when my accounts have leaked somewhere. Right? I love being told that, because at the end of the day, companies, they get hacked all the time, because they're typically never going to hack you personally or your devices at home, right? Unless they're like really hyper targeting on you, but they will target companies you do business with.
One quick comment on LifeLock.
Yeah.
LifeLock does have a reimbursement and expense compensation component to it, depending on whether you followed the directions correctly, yada yada yada, and the source of the leak or the hack.
And that's for like if you had like your identity stolen and someone opened had financial damage to you.
Yeah, and that's at their top of the line part of their product. You get if you're paying the premium, then you're getting $100 million coverage for yada yada yada.
Absolutely. So let's talk about antiviruses real quick. Let's talk about them. I personally don't use a lot of antivirus software. I don't pay for a lot of it. I find that a lot of them do a bit more harm than good. Norton is the primary offender for me as far as antiviruses goes, McAfee being another one that I have a very strong distaste to. Personally, I like free, simple ones, because at the end of the day, what an antivirus, when it scans your computer, this is what's happening. It is referencing a database of known viruses, right? And checking to see if those are on your computer. If my virus gets out there and it gets discovered and I get out of those lists, you are going to see whenever I'm on your device, if my virus is installed on your computer, it will detect it. For me to get around that, all I have to do is change a few things about it. Change its name.
Evan, when you say me to get around that, are you talking if you're the hacker trying to get around?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Excuse me. Let's say I'm a bad guy. If I wrote viruses and malicious software and I was spreading them around, as soon as my malware is discovered, I get out of those databases, those antiviruses checked for. For me to get around that, it's very simple. I just change some things about it, and now it's a new day zero. We call it day zero exploit, meaning that it's just been discovered for the first time. Now, Malwarebytes is one that I do recommend, the free version of it for quick checks. I don't like the things that run in the background to constantly offering tons of different protection on there. For me personally, because I find that a lot of them will interfere with basic things that I'm doing in command or otherwise. That being said, if it's worth it to you, absolutely get one. I'm not here to talk you out of using antivirus by any means. Please use a reputable antivirus company if you're not confident in your ability to search the web safely all the time, right? Because they will pick up on things and it will alert you. Malwarebytes is my current favorite one because its free version is very, very good and it scans really quickly. And I oftentimes do find things, right, on my computer, some cookies or things of that nature. And speaking of cookies, let's talk about those next. Cache and cookies need to be cleared out more often than when command's not working. We need to be doing that probably on a week. In fact, the funny thing to me about command was the first time I was like, people are now clearing their cache and cookies a little more often than they used to. Cache and cookies in your cache, in your cookies are tons and tons of different information. Most of it is just website elements and assets that help the website load quicker next time you come to it. But it will also store information like form fills. Does anybody go to type in their credit card information and your browser tries to go ahead and put in the rest of the information for you? or like your address and all those kind of things. All that stuff is stored in cache and cookies. If you're on Chrome, a shortcut to be able to do it really quickly and easily is Control, Shift, and the delete key. Control,
on
Shift,
Chrome.
delete.
Control Shift Delete.
Mm-hmm.
What about Safari? Do you know what that is? Is there a shortcut?
I don't know if there's a shortcut, but I can search for that real quick. I don't know about Safari. Let me go Safari, clear, cache.
What about your cell phone?
Cookies. On your cell phone, depending on the browser that you're using, it will depend. So if you're using Safari on your iPhone, then I would go to Google and just type in clear out cache and cookies Safari browser on iPhone. I would give specific instructions on every browser, but there's 100 different web browsers out there. So don't want to go down the list on each and every single one. But for Safari, there's a support article here, and the first Google result, I'll put that in the chat for on Mac. And it looks like that's on mobile as well. You follow those instructions on there.
Evan?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Was that to clear cache?
Cache and cookies.
And cookies. Thank you.
Yeah, cache and cookies. And on time range, if it's an option, choose all time. All time. I think by default, Chrome is like in the last hour or so. And I think people do that for like browsing history for things they wanted to keep secret. But I would do all time every single time. Now, when you do that, it's going to sign you out of everything that you're signed into. But if you're using a password manager, that's no problem because you get back into it really easily.
Evan?
Yes.
If you use one of the password protection managers and you want to change all your password you have, would you change the password after you create the account?
It doesn't matter when you do. So if I decide I want to change my Amazon password right now, and I went in and I changed it, the plugin on your browser will pop up and it'll say, hey, did you want to save that? Did you want to update the password that you had for this account here? And it'll have whatever you had just typed in there. You hit yes, and it will remember.
Oh,
Also, when you're initially setting that up, every time you go to a site that you haven't put in one of those managers yet, it's going to ask you if you want to save it at that point. So instead of having to go enter that into the site every time, you might just go log in and save it that way to make it a little easier.
Yeah, it works a lot like how your browser already does, right? Like your browser will prompt you to remember passwords when you log into stuff. I just say don't use your browser to do that because it is not very secure place to store that information, whereas these password managers, their whole benefit is they're cloud and encrypted. So it can't be accessed from your device unless they have that password.
but we can, if I also want to change the password and have the system generate a new strong password.
Yeah, let me show you. Let's do this. I'm going to go to Amazon and make a new account. So let's say I want to create a new Amazon account. I come here and I say, my name is Paul McCartney. And my email is going to be Paul McCartney, TheBeatle.com. And so when I come to password here, you'll see dash lanes popped up for me. And it says, hey, do you want to use our password generator? Right? Now, this is going to work on most sites that you visit, most big standard sites. You will, from time to time, find sites that don't talk to that plugin at all. And you'll have to just like write it down or go and copy paste it and go manually create the entry in the manager. It's not very common, but it does happen from time to time. It will take a little bit of getting used to come over here and go, oh, okay, for this particular one, I'll have to add that in manually.
That's a great point because that does happen.
It does happen, and it can be frustrating. It does take a little bit of getting used to, but if you get used to it, it will change your life. It will absolutely change your life, and it'll make it a lot easier. Especially when you create things on mobile. When you create mobile accounts, oftentimes it won't remember it, and you'll have to manually put that in. But if I say use generated password, it just throws it in there. I didn't even see it, and now already it's saying, hey, do you want to save this account in Dashlane? So I'm on the website Amazon.com. This was the email I gave, and that was the password I put.
Okay,
And
so you don't have to see it, and you can save it, and you can trust that nobody else will know it.
Yep, and I'll actually even do this. I'll save it. I wonder if it's going to make me do a bunch of stuff. Okay, saw this puzzle, didn't like it. So let's just say I just saved it.
Yes.
I didn't actually create the account. But if I come to Amazon now and I want to sign in, I click here now. It goes, hey, which one did you want to use?
Mm-hmm.
Right. And if I click that one, it's automatically going to plug them all in and get me going. And depending on the site, sometimes it'll just automatically do it.
Okay.
You don't have to click anything. You'll just go to the site and you'll see a login screen for a brief second, and then it'll load up and log you in.
Okay, I like the idea because I have more than 100 passwords, so this will save me time.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I imagine. Yeah, you probably have a lot. Yeah, most people have on average around 300 to 500. It can be quite a bit. Again, back to that point earlier, prioritize which ones. I'm not saying to everybody here that you got to make a weekend project to go in and change every password for every single account you've ever made. It's just kind of unrealistic, right? But prioritize.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Let's talk about things to look out for, or otherwise known as my favorite section, the fun section, right? We talked earlier about social engineering posts on Facebook that are public. Here's the reason why I brought that up. It's not just the fact that you're posting personally identifying information. What you'll often notice a lot of times on those posts is that post privacy is set to public. So even if you have your settings on Facebook to be very, very private, because you commented on a public post, that's your name and your picture with your personally identifying information in the comment section, right? So even though you have it set to where only your friends can see what you post, if you comment on something that is public, it will be public, right? A lesson a lot of people that comment on local news articles need to learn. I don't know if you guys ever get a chance to, but go read the comment section of your local news Facebook posts. It is a hoot. Phishing emails. Let's talk about phishing for just a moment. So phishing is the other big way that people are going to get into your accounts, right? In fact, phishing is by far and away the most common way for folks to gain access to your accounts. And it's funny because the most common way people get into your accounts is by you just giving them your information. There's lots of different ways this goes down. We could probably sit here and talk for 3 days about all the different ways phishers can get your information. But a phishing email, and I know you've probably heard of it before, is an email that is designed to trick you into putting in your login. So someone mentioned earlier about someone saying, oh, Facebook had texted me saying that my account had been blocked, right? And you click on the link and it takes you to Facebook's login screen. And you type in and log in. What you've just done is you've just sent that person your Facebook information. They're going to take that and get in. That happens all the time. What you will probably notice, and you'll see companies say this, is they will never, ever reach out to you for your login information. If you ever get an email asking you to log into something, that is a massive red flag. There is no giant standard company that is doing that because it's too common in phishing for it to happen. A lot of times as well. Oh, go ahead. Derek?
Same thing with text links.
Mm-hmm. Whether it's email or text, no company will ever reach out to you directly to ask you for your login information. Just like the IRS is never going to call you and ask you for your social security number. Right? I mean, someone saying they're from the IRS might, but the IRS itself will probably never call you, right? And
So,
that's a
Evan-
big common one. Yeah, go ahead.
So Evan, on my MacBook Air, it keeps saying to me on my MacBook Air, sign into your Google account. And I'm like, I'm in my Gmail, I'm in everything else. So I've just ignored it, but it pops up in my upper right-hand corner.
Yeah, what's happened there is that you're using a feature called Internet Accounts on Mac so that you can access those.
No, I'm sorry, could you repeat that? I'm using a what on
You're
Mac?
using a feature called Internet Accounts in settings, where
Okay.
you've logged into your Google account on the Mac itself, not in the browser, but on the actual Mac. And that's going to let you use things like Apple Mail and Apple Calendar with that account. And you may have changed that password at some point, and it's trying to get into it, and it's not, so it's popping up all the time.
Well, it could be also asking you just to log into the browser, the Chrome browser, if you're sharing that browser history across multiple accounts. That's what it does on mine. I'm logged into everything else, but I don't log in with my Chrome browser. And that's where I keep getting it every time I open up my browser. It says log in if you want to share this across your other browsers.
Yeah, and that's yeah, it's the same concept. That's like Google's ecosystem there. So Google and Apple both have an ecosystem of apps, right? Google's ecosystem predominantly only works with Google accounts, right? I'm not going to add my Yahoo calendar to my Google calendar, though you can, but I'm not going to get into specifics on that. Apple's ecosystem allows you to use other accounts with its apps. So Apple Mail, Calendar, Contacts, Notes, all those things. So in your Mac, if that password on Gmail is changed, your Mac doesn't know it. So it's logging into it and getting an error, and it's asking you to re-sign in. Is what's happening there.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. When in doubt, though, if it's a pop-up, it could be malicious, right? You could have a virus on there. You could double check by going, instead of using the pop-up, by going to your system preferences and going into the internet account section and seeing if there's any errors there. Because if there are, then for sure it's coming from that. If there's not, then you probably have a virus. Right, you probably have something malicious happening. And then I would scan with Malwarebytes, or your trusted antivirus at that point. I totally forgot where my train of thought was on that. Oh yeah, phishing companies. Excuse me, or phishing emails. So there's quite a few things to look out for in any given email that could be a phishing attempt. If it's a company asking you to log in or something like that, that's typically a good sign. Gmail on the web interface actually does a pretty good job of noticing when people are emailing you that are using a different email address than they've used previously. You may have seen that before in Google. That happens. That's one of the reasons why I actually use the Gmail web interface to mainly check my email, because of things like that. A very, very, very common phishing attempt is, let's say Lori Slayman is my boss, and she emails me from Lori Slayman at groupconsulting.com. Let's say that. Someone can go and buy a domain called groupconsulting.com, but they've slightly misspelt it or changed the L to a capital I, right, or 1, and email me from that domain looking exactly like how Lori would, right, and asking me to do something or give over some information. That's one of the reasons why I like Gmail for that reason, and using the Gmail web app is because they are very, very tricky, right? But if the characters don't match up exactly, Google will go, hey, by the way, real quick, this could look a little suspicious. It's not 100% guarantee that it's going to catch it if you get attempted by it. At the end of the day, somewhere, I think it's around 40% of all password compromises are from phishing emails. Even me, I have fallen for them before. I had most recently fell for an Apple one about a year ago. I got an email from Apple that said that my iPhone 6 that I'd lost it several years ago had turned back on with the Find Your iPhone app, which I couldn't believe it because I actually had lost an iPhone 6 around that time. And I was like, oh, no way. And so I logged into it and it didn't take me to apple.com. And I went, oh, no. I was like, no, I didn't just fall for one. Oh, they are very, very tricky. But I want to showcase, some of them are kind of lazy, and Some of them are, oh, Facebook's down. That's not a good example. Let's try, I'll just do Amazon again. Keep using them as the example. Okay, so here's the Amazon sign-in screen, right? For somebody to replicate this very, very well, here is the source code for that web page. Someone who is talented could easily find the formatting and all the different rules to make it look the way it does, and does a lot of copying and pasting to rebuild what you're seeing here visually. Except when you type into it, it's going to send them an email with what you had typed in, right? If you get a text message from anyone, from coming from a place they don't usually message you from. So if I get a text from Lori, but it's a different number, and she has sent me a link to click on, I am always dubious, even when it is a trusted source, of links that are sent to me, especially if they use URL shorteners. You guys have seen Bitly before, right? Bitly, the Google URL shortener, all kinds of them. They work by taking a really long link and turning it into a short one, originally designed to make tweeting links a little bit easier. But they have since been used as basically it's just your standard redirect. So you click on it, it takes you somewhere on the internet, could look like a login screen. I try to pay attention to what domain I'm on when those things happen. I do click on them. But a lot of scammers will pretend to be someone that you know, and they will come from a different place. Oftentimes, though not always, it is possible that Lori's gotten infected with the virus, right? That is possible that her email is sending me that, and it's still dubious. URL shorteners, I typically, what I'll do is I'll pull my phone out and I'll open a private browsing session and just see where the link takes me. 9 times out of 10, URL shorteners, people sending me those, it's usually someplace that's a little sketchy if I feel something, if I already felt like something was a little off. Now, I would say your best practice is just to not click the link whatsoever. When in doubt, here's what you do. Call the person. If you're getting information and you have a spidey sense feeling about that's not legitimate, give them a call on their actual number. If it's a company, go to their website, their official website, and go look up their numbers and see if they have sent you that request for information, whatever that information may be. This is especially true of title companies.
We've got a lot of text ones that were, this great property on the market link, click here to see it. And we don't click on those either, but that could be a one that most real estate agents are like, oh, a deal for my buyer.
Yeah. When it comes to those, I go to the MLS, right? If someone's sending me information about a property, I go, great, what's the address? Yep. Agreed. I'd never click on the link, even if it is somebody I know, because one, man, don't do that. That's annoying. Right? I don't do that to me, man. I don't want to get texted your new listings. But secondly, I will go find it on the MLS, which is a valid source of information, right? Not a random link from a text message. That's a big one in real estate. Tech support scams are also really common. You'll see these oftentimes. Here's the deal, guys. Microsoft does not care if you have a virus. They're never going to call you, ever, for any reason whatsoever. If you ever get that phone call that's saying I'm a Microsoft representative, I'm an Apple representative, it is a scam 100% of the time. 100% of the time. Apple or Microsoft does not care if you get a virus. In fact, Apple's probably thrilled you got one because they're going to sell you a new MacBook, right? Apple's super thrilled you got a virus. Come on, bring it in, man. We'll buy you, get you a new one. Microsoft is never going to call you. If you get an alert on your computer saying to call a number about a virus, something like that, it's always garbage. Go check and call the actual company's number and see if it's an initiative going on. This is also true of utility companies. This happens all the time with utility companies, your electric, water, whatever that may be, if it's privately held. There's tons of times where they say it's going to get shut off. You need to call us. Here's our number. And if you call that utility company, they'll be like, hey, we're recently aware of a scam going on right now. If someone's trying to be us, happens all the time. That's posing as company, phishing email, tech support scams, social engineering, fake Facebook accounts. This is typically true, and I see this mainly targeted at older folks, people that belong to a more elder demographic. I don't see this happen a whole lot of time with young people. That being said, this happens quite often where you'll get a message from someone or a friend request from someone that has the exact name and the current profile picture of your friend. When you're glancing at it from a message, it looks legitimate, right? And you probably had this happen where someone says hello to you and you start talking to them and they're going to sell you on some like get rich quick scheme thing or something like that. You quickly realize it's not real, right? That can happen. Other times they can be a little more sneaky. I've seen some that have gotten people's information to log into things, like their email account from that. Like, hey, go sign up at this thing real quick. I've seen people actually go and do it where the message looked a little more legitimate. Most of them are pretty lazy and they're pretty obvious to tell. When your friend starts talking with really horrible grammar and she's an English school teacher and has been for 20 years, that's usually a pretty odd occurrence, but I have seen some that are pretty sophisticated. So those are the main things to look out for. Generally speaking, when we're talking about just in the kind of the real estate industry, those are the common ones you're going to see. They're going to try to text you. They're going to try to get you to click on a link. Social engineering posts on Facebook, big no-nos, don't participate in them. Text support scams, and then emails posing as companies, phishing emails, things of that nature to get your information. Here's the deal. If you're using a password manager and you're doing all the best practices, at the end of the day, you are not ever going to be 100% secure, right? So having a plan for what to do in case you do have an account that's compromised, things like changing your password, going in and checking those security settings that we reviewed earlier on Google and Facebook. Those are all things that you want to be able to do if you ever suspect you've been compromised. The number one rule is 100% change your password. Call anyone that you think has been affected by it and ensure them that, you know, hey, this is not me doing this thing or whatever it might be. Don't click on that. Don't help it spread. And react according to what's happening, because there's like 80 million different things that could be happening there, but just have some kind of a plan. Usually it starts with just changing the password and securing the devices that it should be logged into.
Hey,
We
Evan,
do have, oh, good.
Hey,
No, go
Evan,
ahead.
I got a question for you.
Yes, ma'am.
So what about trash emails, smutty trash emails?
Oh, definitely click on those links. Great places you can go.
Yeah. No, but how do you avoid getting them?
You can't, you don't. Yeah, there's basically no way around that. Yeah, you're gonna get those forever. Now, commonly, like Gmail does a pretty good job of filtering most of that out of your spam. That being said, you're gonna get them forever. I get messages all the time on Facebook from one profile picture with someone who's very scantily dressed that has some kind of really weird sentence, but they definitely want me to sign up for WhatsApp and join some club all about insert whatever thing you may be into. I'm trying to keep this as Mo Anderson approved as possible, but you get the idea. It happens all the time. It'll never end. At the end of the day, if I want to mass spam everyone from an email address, I can just type in an unlimited amount of combinations. I will get real emails when I do it. And there's nothing that you can personally do about it.
Okay.
Those are problems best solved by the big companies that are managing emails.
Is there any way where you could get rid of them? I'm getting them on my phone and text now.
I don't delete them.
Well, yeah, I do. I mean, I don't know if they're open,
Yeah.
obviously, but
Yeah, never open them. Never ever open those emails.
it would
Period.
be
Because
nice
they
not to
can
get
put
them
things.
at all if there's any way to get rid of them. Or can you block those callers?
You can. You
One
can
thing
absolutely block on iPhone. You can actually go into that when you see the record. If you go to info at the very top of your iPhone, right? Whenever that number's texting, you can go hit info, and there's an option at the bottom for blocking any communication from that number.
Okay.
That being said, though, at the end of the day,
So just
number
get a new
spoofing
number.
is. You could also get a new number, but at the end of the day, I can spoof numbers all day long if I'm a malicious actor. Robocallers have shown this to be true in a big way, and a lot of them call from numbers. I blocked a number one time and DoorDash, could no longer call me, or I couldn't call DoorDash at all because the number that they had used was actually the DoorDash customer support line. It just happens. So yeah, there's not much you can really do about it other than just, hey, don't ever open them. Don't ever open those emails.
So
Period.
is it best then when it pops up in your Gmail as a one-liner, just to hit the trash can and trash it, or to mark it as spam?
Mark it as spam. Yeah, if it's on Gmail, mark it as spam because that helps them learn. Your Gmail should be doing a pretty good job of getting the smut out of your inbox for sure.
Even better, mark it.
Usually,
Just don't spam me, guys. I do send you guys emails. Roswell office.
yeah, marking as spam helps Gmail learn what you do and do not want in your inbox for sure.
You actually have an option to mark it spam or phishing. I always try for phishing if I can.
Yeah. Yeah, phishing will help them learn how to protect the greater community. And then spam does a little bit of that, but spam has a lot of inbox learning that it's trying to do for you personally. So if you mark things as spam or take it out of your inbox, it will learn what you do and do not want there.
Good class.
Okay, so thank you very much. I was going to say that's going to kind of wrap up the main content that I wanted to cover. We do have about 10 minutes for just some open Q&A, so we can just keep these questions going for a little while. About anything that's you're experiencing or concerned about, questions about the content we went over.
Does it surprise you, Evan, as long as we've been into computers and technology now, how many people aren't aware of some of this basic information still?
I used to be surprised by it, but more and more I'm learning is that it's just a lot of security is just not very convenient. And a lot of people tend to, in our daily activities, take the path of least resistance. And so it's easy to sort of just kind of ignore it. So I kind of get it. At the end of the day, if you're acting really safe, and if you want to get into like data privacy type stuff, if you want to be like, I don't want anybody seeing my search history, there are some crazy roads you can go down to make that happen. And for the most part, yeah, a lot of it's just kind of inaccessible to folks.
Well, I learned a lot today, so I didn't know any of this stuff. Thank you.
Absolutely. If there's anything you leave from here today, let it be use a password manager, right? Use a password manager and use a different password. Because if you're using the same password for everything, guys, it is not a matter of if, it is when. It is when. 100%. That is by far the easiest way to get into people's accounts. Is just go try all their different reused passwords.
Hey, Evan.
Yes, sir.
What is is Windows antivirus security good enough?
For me, it is. I do a lot of, I would consider myself pretty high level when it comes to just my computer usage and staying safe. So for me, it's fine. There are a lot of people where I install antivirus on their computer in addition to it. That might need that extra protection. But for me, I haven't used one in quite some time. Windows Defender is quite good. And that actually reminds me, I definitely totally forgot one particular thing that's actually super important. It's happened recently. I did not write it down, which is updating your applications. Automatic updates is the way to go. Keep your software updated. Security vulnerabilities happen all the time. In fact, did anybody last week have an issue where they just couldn't get to the command at all? There's a particular day this happened, and a lot of people from around the country were like, I can't get in, and people were baffled.
KWLS too, the white pages, you couldn't look up people? I couldn't look up somebody for the longest time on white pages.
I don't know specifically about white pages, but this particular issue was not a KW issue. It was a worldwide thing where an old certificate for web authentication had expired on September 30th. On that day, a lot of people suddenly couldn't access stuff because they hadn't updated their browser or their computer's operating system in however long. And when I realized what was happening, I started kind of cracking up all the people that were telling on themselves, not updating their software. But but it was quite big. So real quick, I want to talk real fast. I had some links that I wanted to share. I'm going to pull this down. I'm going to put in the chat. Most importantly, your operating system. So these are the instruction for Windows. That article there is the instruction for Windows on how to turn on automatic updates. And then this next one is for Mac and iPhone. Your Android phone, it will depend on manufacturer, and there are about 50 different manufacturers for Android, so I don't have a specific one for you on that. As well as for your applications. When you're on iPhone, go in and go to your App Store and turn on automatic updates. For any of your programs that are purchased or you've installed onto your computer, check into their settings of that. You will probably find an option for how it's going to check for updates and how it updates. Turn on automatic. Because if there is a security flaw in an old version of software that you're using, you will be exposed until you patch, until you update. And it happens all the time. All the time.
If you're on Windows 95, get off now.
Yeah, if you're still on Windows 95, or I know I probably got some XP holdouts in the room. Your time is ending, XP. Your time is ending. Rest in peace. It was a great operating system, but it is gone. You will see on.
The thing is, I just asked Sam just now. I said something I couldn't get on Facebook or on my PC or my phone. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I'm taking the cyber class right now, and I just got hacked. It says Facebook is down.
Yeah, Facebook's down. The world is healing temporarily for a little while. Yeah, Facebook is down.
Facebook, Oculus, all of them are down.
Yeah, all of their properties are down. It's a full outage. They've never had one this bad.
Right in the middle of testimony about how good they were about taking care of these issues.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a very bad day for Facebook.
Maybe
Some of you might. I think it's part of their efforts to their commitment to ending Finsta. For anybody who saw that news story last week.
There you go.
I got one laugh in there, and that I'll take that as a victory.
Was that?
Finsta is not a thing. It's a slang term that kids use to describe fake, like a secondary Instagram account. And the senator was talking to a Facebook exec and was very prominently wanting her to end Finsta, not understanding that it wasn't a service they provided. It was a slang term.
Yeah, it never ceases to amaze me how these people in Congress who have no idea of what is happening and what these products do are trying to regulate them.
It won't take any time to prepare for the meeting with them. My favorite was that guy yelling at Mark saying, Facebook's free. Well, how do you make money?
Yes. That's my favorite as well.
Ooh,
We
that
have
one.
ads.
Hey,
Yeah.
Evan,
Yeah, yes, sir.
one last question.
Yes, please.
Have you heard of a service called Authy, AUTHY?
I have.
Is it, I'm not sure exactly what it does. If somebody told me about it.
Authy is another authenticator app. So earlier I recommended Google Authenticator for those that want a two-factor solution that's not just SMS-based, text message-based. Authy is another one that does that as well. I use Google Authenticator because it was really easy to set up. I've never used Authy myself. I can't speak to it. I know it's wildly used in a lot of security situations. If you want to take it to the next level, there's a thing called a YubiKey that you can buy. That's for very intense security and privacy because it requires you to actually have a physical thing you slide into the USB slot. Not very practical, but very good for incredibly sensitive information. UB is YUBI, YubiKey. I would not recommend it to the average person, but that's why I didn't cover it too much today. But it is something, if you have something that's very secure that you want to hold on to, maybe past client transaction information or their information, I would put that behind one maybe. And we got 3 minutes. So we can keep going with these questions. 30 minutes?
30 seconds, maybe?
Hold on, what did I say?
30
30
minutes.
Oh, my bad. I meant 3 minutes. 3 minutes. Excuse me. Any other questions related to the staying safe on the internet?
No, that was great. Thanks again. That was very helpful information.
Great information.
Thank you guys. I appreciate it. My email address, I'm going to put in the chat, evan@retechninja.com. Feel free to reach out to me with any questions that maybe you didn't want to ask today, or you think about it later, evan@retechninja. And this number here I'm putting in is my cell phone number. So it's evan@retechninja.com. My cell number is 615-916-8599. As Sam said, my primary business that I run is Real Estate Tech Ninja. I do a lot of consulting, training, and direct leverage for people that are using Command or other real estate CRM software. And I'd be happy to chat with you about that anytime you'd like, if you're curious.